government is expected to introduce its gambling ad legislation to Parliament today.
Give a call to the Minister.
The government is acting to reduce children's exposure to gambling ads, reduce the targeting and saturation of advertising online, and breaking the nexus between sport and gambling.
I think there's a lot of us that think that it is unfinished business. This is the step forward, but we want to see more.
They could have gone further in protecting people. If it were only up to me, I wouldn't have a problem with a total ban.
Prime Minister, why has the government chosen to protect the profits of gambling media and sporting companies instead of implementing all the inquiry's recommendations in order to save the lives of Australians?
This is a major step forward and the Parliament should vote for it. If they don't, then you do have the option of the status quo rather than by...
Oh, no. Member for Cook, we're not going to have that behaviour, so I'm just going to ask you to leave the chamber under 94A.
I spoke to Liberal MP Simon Kennedy earlier. Simon Kennedy, welcome.
Good evening.
You were clearly agitated in the chamber today. Why?
I lost control. I was a bit embarrassed about losing control, but this is personal for me and personal for millions of Australians. I had an experience with a teacher in Year 12. I would give him $50 or $100 here. He was a friend for 15 years. After school, he admitted he had a gambling problem. I watched that man lose his house, his car, his super, his friends, his relationships. He ended up in a housing commission, spiralling into addiction. Through him, I met members at Gamblers Anonymous. I attended with him and I saw people going to jail, normal mums and dads. And even I just came back from the World Cup with my 10-year-old son, where in South Carolina you can open carry an AK-47 and not see a gambling ad.
Yeah.
I got back, he went to school with 850 kids. They watched Australia versus Paraguay. 20 minutes before kickoff, Bet365 comes on and walks you through all the gambling ads.
Now, the gambling lobby would say there are opt-out systems. Why isn't that enough to protect your son from a gambling ad? Because you can control what he sees with opt-out.
Currently, SBS has opt-out. 0.2% of the population is able to find it. Those surveys tell us 80% of Australians want to see less ads. Let
me just say this, that anguish that you describe in relation to your friend is known to many people in Australia. The government would say they've prepared legislation. It's been a long time coming. Australians need it and want it. Why are you holding it up by pushing this into further inquiry when there has been a great deal of time and energy spent on inquiries?
It's ironic the government's worried about time. It's been 3 years since the Murphy report. The Prime Minister promised to respond to it the Christmas before last, never did. Now suddenly they've got all these carve-outs from the gambling lobby and they want to rush it through. One of the carve-outs they have in this is even online during live sport, they say in any scheduled or unscheduled break, they can show gambling ads. Someone scores a try or kicks a goal, gambling ad. Half time or quarter time in the AFL, gambling ad. They've snuck this through and this piece of legislation will actually make it worse. And while there's gambling lobbyists walking in and out of these halls in Parliament House, who doesn't have lobbyists are people like my friend, that school teacher, those people at Gamblers Anonymous, or people like my son. And as an elected representative, and I think most of the elected representatives in this place are here to protect those people.
So you think you've got bipartisan support including amongst Labor backbenchers to do what you're doing, which is hold up the legislation and push it to further inquiry?
I know we do.
Now, you mentioned the Murphy inquiry 3 years ago, almost to the week, I think. She argued for a total ban. Can you support that? Can your party room support that?
Look, I believe in people's choice. And I think if you had an opt-in where people had to opt in to gambling advertising, they were served a choice. We've all tried to cancel a subscription in an opt-out and you can't find it, you're sending emails. That's why SBS has got 0.2%. I struggled to find it today, it took me an hour. I think give people choice. If people want to have gambling ads and they gamble and they punt, let them have them. But if people online don't, and I think we should be targeting online. The social media are some of the worst, Facebook, Instagram. They can actually use their algorithms to target gambling addicts, target young impressionable men or target young children. And that is where the number one ground zero place we need to stop the harm. More than broadcast, that should be ground zero.
At the same time, we've heard a lot of arguments over the last few years about the need to protect the revenue of free-to-air television. So does free-to-air television in Australia need gambling revenue still?
Free-to-air television has structural problems. They've had to adjust when we had the Winfield Cup and cigarette advertising. I don't hear anyone asking to bring that back to help free-to-air. I don't think we should put people's harm to people. Australia has the highest gambling losses in the world. We are #1 in the world. Our government does the worst job in the world of protecting our citizens. I think if we focus on the online harm, that's where the young people are disproportionately. There will still be broadcast slots for free-to-air where they can sell those slots and advertise. And I think there's other things we can do with free-to-air that I look forward to working through with our party room and bringing a package to free-to-air that actually helps them.
So you can't get the Liberal Party room to support a total ban, the thing that Peta Murphy wanted. So what is the minimum for you? We're now pushing this into an inquiry. What is the minimum for the Liberal Party in approving this at the end of a Senate inquiry?
Look, that'll be up to the party. I won't.
What do you think?
Look, what I think is achievable, I think if you actually force these online social media giants who are targeting vulnerable people, they're actively targeting vulnerable people who are prone to addiction. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I think if you targeted the streaming guys with an opt-in, I think the majority of Australians would say, I don't want to opt into gambling advertising. We'd give them that choice, the technology allows it. I think the block-out period before sports, I think that matters. Which is what Peter Dutton, after I think matters less. And I think getting rid of these carve-outs. They want to show gambling ads at all these breaks, you know, on the digital. That's what's in that legislation. I don't think your viewers probably are aware. The Prime Minister is suggesting gambling ads all through the breaks. If you're streaming it on your smart TV, that you and your family will see gambling ads in every break.
Now, they describe this as very substantial legislation with serious protections protecting children from adverts on radio during school time, some restrictions on the numbers of ads that you can see before and after, but you're convinced it's not enough to protect children and vulnerable Australians?
There's some good stuff in there, but some things will get worse. You will see ads in every break of the game if you're streaming it on your smart TV. That's what that legislation allows. I certainly don't think that's enough. When I think about my kids, if I think about what the US is doing, and when I think about we do the worst job in the world of protecting our citizens, it's definitely not enough.
All right, we'll wait to see what you can produce in the inquiry. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Thank you. 7:30's political editor Jacob Greber joins me now. Jacob, let's just focus on what Simon Kennedy said there, which is that in the government's legislation, and no one has made this point today, is offering a major carve-out to the digital platforms to enable them to run more ads than you'll be able to get access to on terrestrial television. So that's an awful lot of people in Australia who consume their sport that way. Is that reason enough to push this legislation into another Senate inquiry?
Well, look, we start from a position here where there's not a great deal of trust for this legislation. It's been 3 years in the making. There are many inside Labor who have reservations about the direction it's taking. Certainly the Greens don't like it. Certainly the crossbench doesn't like it. And it now turns out quite viscerally that there are problems among many in the coalition with this bill. They are very, very worried that it doesn't go far enough, that there are these carve-outs, for instance, for these, providers that use really, I guess, a vector that most young people increasingly watch television through. And so he's identified, I think, a very big concern here. And in a funny sort of way, he's showing really this unusual thing now where a lot of the backbenchers or the more junior members of the coalition are jumping up on various issues. We've seen it with Andrew Hastie, and we're seeing it here with Simon Kennedy, taking, I think, a bit of a leadership role on a very, very challenging topic. But I also think, talking to people in the coalition, this is not a moderates versus conservatives kind of division. These concerns about the gambling laws and whether they go far enough are actually quite across the board.
We weren't expecting to land on this position at the end of this week. How did this all unfold with this and obviously the social media ban legislation as well?
It's a classic reminder you can't predict anything in the Senate. It's a beast of its own. No one controls it. It requires deal making, and we saw deal making to get to this point. I guess the Peta Murphy inquiry, the late Peta Murphy's inquiry, continues to hang over the government really like a ghost. They've struggled to address it. They were expecting pushback. They were expecting some kind of inquiry to come out. What they were not expecting was that a deal would also be done done around the social media ban. And we saw that last night as everyone was getting their frocks on and you know,
including me,
polishing their shoes, including yourself, yes, getting ready for the ball. The Senate was busy cutting a deal, and to the government's chagrin, the Coalition and the Greens joined forces, and lo and behold, they've kicked this social media ban, which the government was convinced at the start of this week they would roll through the Senate. Instead, now it's off to an inquiry, and here's what the Communications Minister, Annika Wells, said in response in Question Time today.
Last night, the Coalition sold out Australian kids to some of the richest, most powerful companies in the world, giving them at least 2 more months to sharpen their legal strategy, to get rid of documents and to continue to do the bare minimum to follow Australian law. They did a deal with the Greens political party to send a 4-page bill with 2 simple goals to a 2-month Senate inquiry. A bill that Australian parents implored this parliament not to treat like a political football.
Now, obviously a week is a long time in politics. This was Simon Kennedy, relatively junior member of the government. Where's Angus Taylor and the leadership on this? Well,
he was sitting right here at this table not 6-7 weeks ago after the budget. After the budget reply, I should say, he fired his big cannon on tax cuts, indexing tax thresholds. That disappeared beneath the waves of Pauline Hanson and her big day out at the press club. He's struggled. The polls are dire. He seems lost on leadership around some of these policy debates. He's not in the middle of the frame. He's now going into the winter break. There's no move on him. That's not the discussion. No one has any real bock for that. But he does have to deliver in the next month or two to turn that around, to try and grab a bit more of the agenda.
Jacob, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.